Okay, good afternoon everyone. You're very welcome to Trinity today for our open day, our rescheduled open day. I hope you're finding it very informative. The talk that I'm going to give today is very specifically on applying to Trinity College as a mature student. It's not going to be a very general talk on Trinity. You've already had an opportunity to talk to the courses. It's very specifically on the application form and applying to TCD as a mature student. So I just want to look at the overview of the presentation and what format it will take. First of all, I will focus on the importance of research. We'll look at the application process. We'll go through the application form itself in detail, and then we'll have a little summary, and there'll be plenty of time for questions towards the end. So in terms of course research, I think it's really vital at this stage. You're considering your application now for the 1st of February. It's important that you do a lot of research into the course that you're applying for. The fact that you're here today is all part of that research. It's about going to the course stands, getting information, finding out more. Is this course really for you? Another way of doing that is going to the Trinity website. You might go home, have a question you didn't get answered today, go home, have a look on the Trinity website under the course-specific pages and see if the information is there. If not, there's always a further information number on the website or in the prospectus to give somebody a call to make sure that you're really clear about what the course entails before you make that all-important decision to apply for it. A lot of the courses nowadays have their the course handbook, which is the handbook that's given to students when they register, up on their website. So it's really detailed. It looks at how things are assessed, the course requirements, the reading lists in some cases. So it's important, again, to have a look and see if that's there. And again, if you haven't been to the course, all of the course stands after this, please do. It's open days until 2 o'clock. Do take the opportunity to go and talk to the staff and students about the course that you're interested in. Financial research is incredibly important. Primarily fees. It's really good at this stage of the game, before you make your application, to look and see whether or not you are eligible for free fees. The government free fees scheme is still in operation, but some people for different reasons may not be eligible for that. If you've been to college before, if you studied at 3rd level, if you have EU status, and so on. So it's important to address all of these financial concerns and issues now, before you make your application, certainly before you're offered a place. Look at how you'll fund yourself for the 4 years. Ask yourself questions like, am I going to be eligible for the Back to Education allowance? Will I be eligible for a grant? Will I get my student charge covered? And so on. And grants and scholarships. And there is a very good website which I think would be very useful for you all to look at this stage. It's called studentfinance.ie, and it's an umbrella website. It has all of the information that you will need to help you to make an informed decision about applying to Trinity as a mature student. And I've put the impact of college on life there, and I'm sure that you know it's an important decision to return to college or to start college for the first time. And I'm sure you have addressed these questions, but it's just important to reinforce that attending college full time, will have a big impact on your life, particularly if you have children. And who's going to take them to school? Who will collect them if you've got a class that's running till 5 o'clock? Have you got somebody there, some support? Sometimes it's the very small details that really do cause major problems for mature students, like children, like part-time jobs and so on. If you're looking after parents, have you got support in terms of taking care of them? Simple thing like, do you have a quiet space at home in order to do your study? If you've got a house full of children, getting that quiet corner might be quite difficult. So just to think about those things and think about them in advance, so that they're not going to become an issue for you if you are lucky enough to be offered a place in Trinity. And do you have supportive family and friends? It's really important to have that support, because things will change at home when you become a full-time student. So I want to look at the Trinity, the application process then. There are 2 application forms, as you're well aware of. There's the TCD supplementary application form, which we're going to focus on today, and there is the CAO application form. And you can apply directly to CAO online at www.cao.ie, or I'd say at this stage an online application is probably the best thing, unless you have your pack from CAO, in which case you can submit a written copy. And the deadline for both of those application forms is the 1st of February, and we do not accept any late applications, so please be aware of that. What happens is the application forms, the supplementary application forms, come into Trinity And a copy, you're asked to submit a photocopy with your application form and the number of courses you've applied. If you've applied for 3 courses, you send in your supplementary application form and 3 photocopies. The supplementary, your original form is kept in the admissions office and the others are sent out to the different departments for shortlisting. So that's what happens. They're sent out, shortlisting takes place, and then interviews. People are called for interviews. Not everyone, as a result of the shortlisting, will be called for an interview. Interviews take place around March, April and May time. And we do try to give you as much notification as possible about those interviews. You do have to attend if you want your application to proceed. Okay, so just to be aware of that. In terms of notification of offers, we do write out to or keep in touch with our students or applicants along the process. If you're not being called for interview and your application is not being considered, you will be informed. If you're being shortlisted, obviously you'll get a letter inviting you in. As soon as a decision has been made, you will receive a letter from the college, whether that's yes, we're happy to offer you a place, or I'm sorry, your application has been unsuccessful. So you will get that informal offer of a place from Trinity by the end of May. And we do ask that students, respond to that within a given time frame to say whether or not you're going to accept your place. And then the CAO notification goes out then in early July. And it's important to remember that the letter from Trinity is it's kind of an unofficial offer. That the CAO is your official offer and you must respond to that. Oftentimes people say, well, I've accepted my place, I'm going to go on holidays now. They miss the July deadline because they're on holidays, they think they've accepted their place. The offer comes, it's sitting on the mat when they come back and the deadline has passed. So just to be aware of that. There's no problem going on holidays, you can accept your offer online with the CAO, but just to be aware that is the process and that does need to be undertaken. And just to keep all of your documentation together, particularly if you're applying to a number of different colleges. It's important that you know your CAO order of preference list, that you have all of the documentation relating to all of your different applications. There are some exceptions to the supplementary application form, and I've just listed a few of them there. CAO, if you're applying to if you're applying to nursing and midwifery, so you do not have to complete the supplementary application form if you're applying for nursing and midwifery. All of the other courses in the Trinity Prospectus you will have to fill out the supplementary application form for. Of course, in addiction studies, we have a lot of mature students interested in our addiction studies. That is an application directly to the college, not on the supplementary form, on a form directly to addiction studies. So you do not have to complete the CAO and you do not have to complete the supplementary application form for that particular course. But all of the exceptions are listed on page 4 of the guidelines booklet, so I'd ask you to refer to that for more information. In terms of specific assessment, for most courses in Trinity, there are no formal requirements for mature students apart from a knowledge and interest in the subject that you're applying for. But again, there are exceptions to this. For psychology, everyone must sit an aptitude test run by the School of Psychology. So all applicants are invited in for that, and then they use the results of that test plus your application form to shortlist people for interview. If you're interested in applying to engineering or maths, maths is a requirement, and maths at Leaving Cert honours level or equivalent. So you need to have a good foundation in maths before applying to that course. And for students who don't have Leaving Cert honours maths but are taking it this year, they will be deemed to be eligible to be considered, but any offer that's made will be conditional on you achieving that grade in the Leaving Cert. And again, please refer to page 5 of the guidelines for more information on those exceptions. Just to mention medicine then, medicine is open to mature applicants. We don't have grad med in Trinity, but it is open to mature students into the undergraduate course. In order to be eligible to apply to medicine, you must have a grade B and a grade C in 2 of, so you must have biology and physics or chemistry. So you need 2 science subjects and you must sit the HPAT Ireland aptitude test. It's a requirement for entry into medicine. And then again, a shortlisting process will take place and people will be called for interview. So what I want to do now is turn to the application form itself, and we'll run through it. Just because there are some sections that people often have questions about. Now the first page is pretty self-explanatory, and the reason I have personal details up on the screen is that I just want to remind you that if you do change address during the course of this process that you must inform the admissions office here and you must inform the CAO. Reason being that we send out offer letters to you. The CAO will send out letters. If you have moved, which happens, occasionally, offers again are left in the mat of somebody else's house, and they're not accepted on time. So it's really, really important that if you do move, change address, that you let everybody know. Date of birth is there because I just want to highlight that you must be 23 on the 1st of January in the year of application. So you must have turned 23 by the 1st of January 2011 to be considered for mature entry this year. And again, you must have EU status to be considered a mature applicant. And there is details on page 2 of the guidelines about EU status. I would ask you to refer to that, the prospectus or the Trinity website for further information. You can see on the first page of the application form under section 2 courses that you can apply for 3 courses in Trinity. Now, as you know, I'm sure most of you at this stage would have had a look at the CAO form. You will know that you can apply for up to 10 courses on the CAO, 10 degree courses, 10 level 8 degree courses, and 10 level 6 and 7 on the certificate, diploma, ordinary degree course section. You will only be considered for 3 Trinity choices. Okay, so that's important to remember. And the courses you have here on your application form must be on the CAO. Okay, that's an important point to make. And we're asking you to outline the full code and the full title of the course you're applying for. You cannot change your mind applying as a mature student, but you can change the order of your preferences. So that's something that might come into play later on when offers start coming in. You cannot change your mind, which means you cannot introduce a new course onto your CAO after the 1st of February, but you can change the order of preference. Okay, so that might be moving a course up to ensure that you're going to be offered that course in the CAO, or maybe taking a first choice out, whatever it is, just to know that you can rotate those courses on the CAO. And the CAO works by offering you your highest preference. So they're presuming that your number 1 choice is the course that you want the most. So if that changes in the course of the whole process, in order to be ensured that you're going to get your first choice, your highest, the course that you want the most, it must be your number 1 preference. Okay, so just to be aware of that. Trinity we don't look at the CAO form. We're not aware of where these preferences lie on your CAO form, and preference does not come into play when we're assessing our application. So we will just assess these 3 courses, and then we will make our offers. If you've got a higher offer on the CAO and you're going to be offered that, it will supersede the Trinity offer, and that is the offer you will get in the 1st of July. So just to be aware of that. But please do refer to the CAO handbook for more information on that. So just to look then at the other sections, I'll look first at employment. We're asking you to document, which is on page 4 of the application form, right, in chronological order, relevant work experience. Now, oftentimes it's not possible to have relevant work experience. If you're applying for psychology or courses like that, we don't expect relevant work experience. What we would ask you to do is give us the full job title, a description of the job, and then pull out all of the skills and responsibilities that you had in your position. Okay, it's important to do that so that the people who are assessing your application form will be able to clearly see your role and clearly see the skills that you learned and picked up along the way. So we're asking you in chronological order. Some people say, well, there are only 4 sections there. I've had a lot of jobs. You don't have to list all of your jobs. I'd say pick out the most relevant ones. But again, make sure that your application form, like your curriculum vitae, that there are no major gaps. If you're not documenting a position here in detail, do mention it on the application form so that they will be able to clearly see the pattern of your life and what you've been up to. It's a very holistic application form, a very holistic approach to offering places in Trinity. So we do look for all of that particular information. Let's get back then to the education. We do ask you to document all of your secondary education. Some people say, well, I did it so long ago, I can't remember the grades I got. And what I'd ask you to do is, you do need to put them down. You do need to send your certificates to the CAO. So if you go back to your old school or request your leaving certificate document if you don't have it already, and do include all of that information. It's very, very important that you do include, and you don't leave it blank, particularly if you have taken a state exam. It's really, really important that it's there. You can only be assessed on the application form by what you provide, the information you give us. So the more information you have here about you, about your study, your work, your hobbies, your interests and so on, your voluntary work, the easier it will be to make a decision on your application. So post-secondary education then, if you have, after school, if you went on to do a certificate, a diploma or indeed a degree course, we would ask you to document all of it here again. And some people say, well, I did a certificate course, but there isn't enough room here. I'd say focus on the last year, or focus on the modules that are particularly relevant to what you're applying for. So just be a bit strategic there, but do give us, again, as much information as you possibly can. Current study is obviously very, very important on this application form, because if you're studying currently, and particularly if it's related to what you're applying for, we really do want to know, again, in great detail, how you're doing, what you're doing, and how you're doing on that course. So if you're studying now and you've completed some assignments, do put the grades in there just to give us an indication of how you're getting on. Sometimes, the course mightn't finish until June, you won't have any final results, but you'll be able to just give a feel for how you're doing and the type of subjects that you're doing. And again, if there isn't enough information here, or indeed in any of the other sections on the application form, and you really do want to elaborate and include everything that you're doing, you can add on additional sheets of paper if you wish, just to capture the right information. And non-certificate courses, people often forget about these and discount them as being irrelevant, but it's important on this form that you show your education in its full form over the years. So you may have undertaken evening classes a number of years ago in maybe English, you maybe did writing, creative writing, and if you're applying for English now, that certainly becomes very, very relevant. Or you may have undertaken courses as part of a job that could be relevant to what you're applying for. So again, have a good brainstorming session before you attempt to put pen to paper with this application form, pulling together all of the courses that you've done, highlighting what you want the interview panel to know about you, and to fill it out completely here. Okay. Section 3.5 on page 3, English language proficiency. If English is not your first language, you will be required, unless you've undertaken all of your secondary education through the medium of English, you will be required to do and examine that and provide it to us. Now, the results don't have to be in until the 30th of June. So you could make your application, make plans for your test, and make sure you have the results into us by the 30th of June. Okay, and there's more information on that in the guidelines as well. So I just want to, Section 5, activities other than education or employment on the application form. This is particularly important, the voluntary work section. We do take paid work and voluntary work into consideration when mature students are applying for a number of courses. Courses that would nearly expect some level of voluntary work include social work, physiotherapy, occupational therapy. They really want to know that people have a good insight into what the profession is about, that they have a good, realistic idea about what the job entails. So if you have any voluntary work, particularly if it's related to those areas, and you're applying for them, do include them on this form. But even still, if you're applying to do science or English, if you have engaged in voluntary work, do put it on the application form. Again, it gives a good insight into you as a person, what your interests are, and so on. And we really would like to know that. Hobbies or interests, again, you can, if you have got hobbies that are related to what you want to study, if you're an avid reader and you want to do English, that's great. But you might be applying for English and interest in scuba diving or skydiving, whatever it is. Again, put it down there. We want to know. Okay. I want to turn now to page 6 of the application form, which is very, very important. It's the subject course section of the application form. And you can see there are a number of different pages. You will have to write one page for each of the courses that you're applying for. So if you're applying for a TSM, English and Philosophy, you will write one page on English and you will write one page on Philosophy. Okay? If you're doing, for example, another example, business and French, again, it will be 2 pages, a page on business and French. So it's up to you to from your course titles, the ones you've selected, to complete this form as accurately as you possibly can. What they're looking for here, and I suppose this is the difference between the CAO and our application form, this is a very subject-specific question. The question that they're asking you here is, what aspect of the course interests you the most? So what they're expecting there, and it's a really good, excellent opportunity for you to highlight the research you've undertaken into the course, is to basically do that, to give them an insight into what you find interesting. If you want to do English, why do you want to do English in Trinity? What is it about the course here that makes it so appealing to you? If you want to do social studies here, what is it about the course, apart from the professional qualification, that makes that course of interest to you? So they're looking for evidence of that research, that you know what the course is about, and that you've got a very, very good insight into the demands of that particular course. Now, they don't want the prospectus regurgitated back, but it's your own personal opinion and personal view of the course. That's what they're looking for there. The second section there is explain the relevance of your life and educational experience and how it relates to this application form. So that's kind of more general. What is it about, why is this course and why is Trinity right for you now? What has brought you on this path that this is the course for you and this is the year for you? So it's just important to be aware of that. On the CAO, it's a much more general kind of personal statement about why you want to go to college. There's certainly scope in the application form to include that, but this question here is very course specific, and they will be looking to see, does the person understand what this course is about? And it's really, really important, back to the doing the research into the course that you're applying for. It's really, really crucial, because if you don't know what the course is about, you could find in the first few weeks that it's not the course for you. Occasionally people come to me and say, well, I didn't know I had to do maths as part of this course, or economic maths as part of sociology and social policy. I don't like maths. It's a real problem, because you do have to pass your exams to proceed on to the next year. So if that person had done more research, they would have known that maths was a component and that they would have to do it. So it's important that you don't fall into that trap, that you're very, very aware of all of the modules that you will have to undertake, and that you're very comfortable with them. Okay. Section 6 and 7 on the application form then, Section 7 is the additional information section. So this is where we're saying, if you do a brainstorming before you start this application, you make a list of all of the things that you want the people who are reading this application form to know about you. If you cannot include them in the other sections, I would advise you to fill out the additional information. Okay, and I think it's really important anyway. It is very competitive. It's a very competitive process. So, as I said, the more information that the panel have who are shortlisting, who are involved in the process, the more information they have about you, the easier it will be to make a decision on whether or not to offer you an interview. Okay, so it's very, very important. And I know from working with these applications over the years that people who maybe leave sections blank, write a couple of lines here and a couple of lines there. They're people who are not called for interview. They might have great potential, they might have great interest, but they haven't spent the time required on the application form. They've just, half completed the form and sent it in, and that will not get you through to the next stage. So additional information, if you have anything else that you want to add, it could be just to reinforce, look, I'm really, really keen on this course, I've made a decision, this is what I want to do, just to kind of reinforce that interest and that passion that you have for the course that you're applying for. Maybe that's the section to do it. Other people might say, well, look, I did my Leaving Cert years ago and I did very, very badly, and that doesn't reflect my ability. I was very bright, but I just was distracted with things, and I've undertaken courses since and I've done very well. I'd say, well, maybe use the additional information section to explain that. You don't have to go into details, but just say, look, I realised that my Leaving Cert results were not the best, but times were different then. I wasn't as interested as I am now in study, and since then I've done really, really well, and I've succeeded in the course that I've undertaken, and I'm really ready for this course now. So just, if there's anything that you want to explain away in the application form, I'd suggest that you include it there. Okay. So you just have to sign the form then to state that everything is completed and everything is accurate and so on, and the checklist. Now I'd ask you to send in the form completed. Okay, we don't want to have to write out to you. There are hundreds and hundreds of applications coming in on the 1st of February, so we'd appreciate that if it was complete. And we do not accept any additional documentation with the application form. People say, well, I've got references, I've got a CV, will I send in my academic transcripts? We don't accept any additional documentation. Okay, so just send in your application form. You can, as I said, add on additional leaves if you want. And just something that I might add, that you can type out, this is not available unfortunately to apply for online, but you could type out some of the text parts of the application form if you wish. And if I was completing the form, it's probably what I would do. I would fill out the personal information and all the job information and education by hand, but I would type out these sections. But just be very careful to write section 6 on top, the code, the course you're applying for, and then the questions, and then type them and stick them on to make sure that they're not going to be lost in transit going down to the departments. Okay? So just to refer then to the photocopies, this sometimes confuses people. I mentioned it earlier, I'll mention it again. You send your application in to us, to the admissions office. So this comes into the admissions office. You can hand deliver it in or post it in to be here by the 1st of February. Okay, and for every course you're applying for, you send in a photocopy of the application form. So if you're applying for a TSM in English and Philosophy, and you're applying for single honour philosophy, you will send in two photocopies of the application form with the original. And that, as I said, into the admissions office by the 1st of February. Okay. Briefly then, because I know we were late starting, and I do want to have a quick look at the supports that are on offer in Trinity. And I'll start off by looking at the academic support. Sometimes mature students are a bit anxious, maybe out of study for quite a while, coming back to do a full-time degree course can be quite daunting. But just to reassure you, to say that there are a lot of academic supports available. We have a writing resource centre. It's based in TAP. For all TAP and mature students in college. So it's basically a one-to-one service where if you're writing an assignment, you're writing an essay, you're having difficulties, you can make an appointment to see Maggie, who coordinates the programme, meet her, and she will work with you on a one-to-one on your essay. It's a fantastic facility, and students do use it. They might only use it for the first essay or two until they get the hang of it, but it is something that's there as a support for you if you need it. We have a learning development centre. It's located, run by the Student Counselling Service, and they run a number of really fantastic courses right throughout the year from September up to April time, looking at time management, preparing for exams, and so on. And some of those courses are specifically for mature students, but of course you're welcome to go to any of the courses that they have on offer. We have a maths help room again for someone who's doing maths or doing a course with a maths component and they're having problems with it. It's again a one-to-one service run by the PhD students in the college. You can go with your query and you can say, look, I don't know how to work this out, and they will work with you in a one-to-one to ensure that you're able to overcome the difficulties. And oftentimes with the maths help room, if a couple of people from the same class are having difficulties, they gather them together and they might run an extra tutorial on a Wednesday evening or something, just to support them. So there is a lot of support. We have computer rooms available. We have a mature student resource centre which I manage. It's available for students to book for their own personal or group study. You can book it for 2 hours a day. It's got whiteboard, a large table for group study. It's got internet, PC, telephone, and so on. So you're welcome as registered mature students to use that. I will talk about personal supports. As the Mature Student Officer, part of my job is not only to encourage mature applicants to college, but also to support them once they're registered. We do that in a number of ways, and I'll just refer to a couple of them now. In the summertime, when offers have been made and offers have been accepted, I organise a kind of a getting organised seminar for all incoming students, and we get people in from MABS and people talking about childcare and just making sure that your financially, your kind of the practical elements are all kind of set up before you start. Obviously it's up to you, it's just providing you information so that that's all organised, and you can start then we run an orientation programme prior to a week-long orientation programme prior to the start of term for all mature applicants, and this year we have about 150 mature students in. It's a great opportunity to meet other mature students. Some people worry that they're going to be the only mature student in the class, or have different concerns or issues. But that week is really great. You get to meet all the other mature students. You get to meet the support staff in college. You get to undertake training in IT. The library is open for guided tours. You get a reader's ticket, which gives you access to the library when it's quiet and there's nobody here, so you can get familiar with the whole system, and so on. So it's really a fantastic week and open to all incoming students. We have a student counselling service. They obviously do student counselling, but they also manage that learning development unit, which is fantastic, which I've already talked about. We've got a health centre on campus. We have a disability service. Disability have a stand today, so I'd say certainly call into those if that's an issue for you or concern for you. We have a careers office, chaplaincy, childcare, and we have a creche on campus. And somebody did inquire about that earlier on today, just to say that it is in demand, and you would have to register as soon as you're made an offer. You would put your child or children's name down. So just to summarise then, we had a look at the importance of research, and just to reiterate that, really do research into the course you're applying for to make sure that they are the course, or it is the course for you. We had a look at the Trinity application process, how it works, the shortlisting and so on, and then we had a quick look at the form.